so Web3. Everyone's talking about it. It's everywhere online. You know how it is, like when you learn a new word and suddenly you hear it everywhere you go?
Yeah, it's like that.
But this is different than just like a new word, right?
Hmm.
Businesses are trying to figure out if Web3 can actually like solve real problems for them.
Right, and that's the difference, right, between like just knowing what it is and then actually seeing how it plays out in the real world.
Totally. So we're taking a deep dive into this Web3 thing by looking at this company, SpudBlocks.
SpudBlocks.
Yeah, so they say they're like pioneers in this Web3 consultancy thing.
Okay.
We've got their like company info, what their mission is, all that, and they are not shying away from all the jargon,
Yeah.
decentralization, blockchain, all the buzzwords, it's all there. So I'm curious, like from what you've seen, is this legit or is this just like really good marketing?
Well, I mean, the name is a little,
Yeah.
but I think when you look at the services they're actually offering, they are targeting some important aspects of Web3, especially for business.
Okay.
Like they mentioned smart contract development. That seems to be something that a lot of companies in this space are highlighting.
Okay, so for those of us who, we've heard of Web3, we've heard of smart contracts, but we don't really know what it means.
Right.
What does that even mean? What is smart contract development?
Yeah, so basically, you can think about it this way. A traditional contract, lots of pages, lots of legal jargon, usually lawyers involved. A smart contract is kind of like a self-executing contract. So it's written in code, it lives on the blockchain.
Okay.
So it basically cuts out that middleman.
So instead of having like a lawyer who has to make sure everyone's doing what they're supposed to,
Yeah.
the code just like does it automatically.
Exactly, yeah.
Wow. And it's all on the blockchain, which is like this whole other.
Exactly.
So it's like instead of having that pyramid structure we're used to, CEO at the top, everybody kind of below
Right.
Web3 and this whole decentralization thing
Yeah.
is more about like a flat distributed
Yeah.
network.
Yeah, and this is a huge implication for business, right? Because if you think about how much control, say, Facebook or Google has over your data,
Right.
this is basically trying to shift that power back to the user in a way.
Okay, so less big tech, more user control.
Yeah.
Got it. But how does SpudBlocks help businesses actually like use this? What are they actually offering?
Yeah, so it looks like they take this kind of multifaceted approach. So yeah, smart contract development, but they also talk about things like tokenization strategies, which is basically creating digital assets that can represent anything from like loyalty points to even company ownership.
So it sounds like they're kind of trying to be like a one-stop shop for all things Web3.
Yes.
But before we like really get into SpudBlocks specifically, I kind of want to zoom out for a second to talk about like the broader Web3 world.
Okay.
What are some other ways that businesses are actually using this stuff?
Well, we're seeing it pop up in a lot of different industries, actually. Like everything from supply chain management to even like the arts and creative fields are getting into.
Okay, so like what does that actually look like though? Can you give me an example?
Sure. So like Ford, the car company, they've been looking into using blockchain, like actually using it so that they can have a really transparent supply chain
Okay,
for their cars.
gotcha.
So you can track where all the parts are coming from, make sure it's, ethical sourcing,
Right.
all that good stuff.
Yeah.
And less risk of like counterfeit parts.
Which makes a ton of sense when you think about it, right?
Yeah.
Because the more complicated something is, like a car,
Yeah,
the more important it is to know, like, where all the pieces came from.
absolutely.
What about, like, I don't know, something that's not like a physical product?
Sure.
What about something that's more like digital?
Well, even, artists and musicians, they're using NFTs, which we've talked about before, non-fungible tokens. And they're using them to like actually own their work in a way that they couldn't before.
Which is huge for them, right? Because before it was so easy to just like copy digital stuff. But this is a way to like really say, I made this and actually prove it.
Right, it's verifiable.
Okay, so that's one of the big things that like everybody's talking about with Web3.
Definitely.
All those digital art pieces that are selling for millions of dollars.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a wild ride.
Oh yeah, totally.
But it's important to look beyond that.
Okay.
What the technology can actually do. So NFTs, at their most basic level, it's about proving that you own something digital.
So it's not just about like owning a JPEG.
Yeah.
It's about like changing how we think about what it even means to own something online.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. So that's huge. I mean, we're talking about like big changes.
Yeah.
But I think for like a lot of business owners who are listening to this,
Right.
they're probably thinking like, okay, this is cool, but
Yeah.
like, is this something that I need to worry about right now?
It's a good question.
Like, should I be spending money on this?
Right. And I think the answer is it depends. Like with most things in business,
Okay.
just because everyone's talking about it doesn't mean you have to like totally change your business model overnight.
So don't panic, but also like don't ignore it.
Right. Just stay informed, maybe experiment a little
Okay.
and see, are there opportunities for me?
So basically, like, you got to figure out if this whole Web3 thing actually makes sense for your business.
Exactly.
And if it does, then companies like SpudBlocks could like help them do that, right?
Yeah, potentially. Yeah.
Because they're saying, hey, we're the experts. We can guide you.
Right.
And they're like, they have those big numbers about how happy their clients are.
Yeah.
98%.
98%, that's what they said. But how do we know if those clients are like actually seeing results?
Right, because that's the million-dollar question, right?
Totally, yeah.
Like, you can say that you're happy, but is it actually working?
Right.
And it's hard to say. Some companies, maybe. Others are probably still just trying to figure it all out.
So it's still early
It's very
to
early.
know if Web3 is gonna like really work the way they say it's going to.
It is definitely still a developing landscape.
Yeah,
A lot of things could happen.
right. And there's always that hype cycle with new tech.
Totally.
Everyone gets so excited, maybe it's just a fad.
Right.
But it sounds like you're saying Web3 could actually like be a big deal.
It could be, yeah. But it requires, some different thinking,
Yeah.
like really challenging how we do things now.
Okay, so new ways of thinking, and also like a healthy dose of, is this for real?
Absolutely. You always need to be a little bit skeptical.
So let's talk about the skeptical side then, right? Like, what are some of the risks?
Okay, so one of the biggest ones is security.
Okay, that makes
Right.
Because if everything's decentralized,
It's not all in one place.
exactly. So instead of like one central authority that's protecting everything,
Right.
you have this big network and it can be vulnerable in different ways.
So it's kind of a trade-off then. More freedom, but maybe less security.
Kind of, yeah. And then there's regulations. Governments are still figuring out what to do with all of this.
Because it's so new.
It's so new.
So nobody really knows what the rules are yet.
Exactly.
Yeah, it sounds like the Wild West out there.
It kind of is, yeah. But, that's what makes it exciting.
That's true. It's like uncharted territory.
Right. And for companies like SpudBlocks,
Okay.
they see this as their opportunity.
To like be the guide.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's talk about them for a second.
Sure.
We talked about what they do. Their clients are happy.
Right.
But do you think a company like SpudBlocks, like, are they going to be around in 5 years, 10 years?
Hard to say, honestly. I mean, Web3 changes so fast.
That's true.
Companies that are like, the big thing today could be gone tomorrow.
Yeah, we've seen that happen.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Are they riding the wave? Or is there something more? It's tough to say.
Okay, so they definitely know their stuff, but whether or not they can, like, keep up with everything.
Exactly.
Because it's changing so quickly.
That's the thing. Web3 is constantly evolving.
So they could be helpful now, but in a year, 2 years, who knows?
Who knows?
So I guess that's like the big question, right? Is Web3 all hype, or is this something that's going to like really change everything? Well, it feels like it could go either way.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing about Web3.
Okay.
It's not just one thing. It's like a bunch of different technologies.
So like blockchain's part of it?
Blockchain's a big part of it.
Decentralization.
Yep. All about like changing how we think about like who owns things online.
Right, and who you trust online. Because right now it's like, we have to trust Google, we have to trust Facebook.
Right. Or whoever.
But Web3 is like,
It's trying to change that.
yeah, trying to change that.
Take time.
So for like the average person, the average business owner, what does this all mean? Like, should we all be running out and buying Bitcoin?
Well, I wouldn't say, everyone needs to go all in on this right now,
Okay, that's fair.
but it's definitely something to pay attention to.
Because it could be really important.
It could be huge.
And, companies like SpudBlocks, that's what they're trying to like,
They want to help people navigate it.
yeah, they want to be the guides.
Which, makes sense because it's confusing.
Oh, totally.
It's a lot to take in.
Yeah, so even if you don't like hire them, it's still important to like,
To at least understand it.
yeah, like what's going on?
Yeah, like what is Web3? What are the big ideas?
What are the risks?
Exactly. And that's what I mean by Web3 literacy.
Okay, I like that.
It's like, you don't have to be fluent, but you should know, like, the basics.
The basics. Okay, that makes sense. So as we wrap up here, what's like the big takeaway.
Don't ignore it.
Yeah.
Even if you're not, changing your whole business plan,
Right.
just understanding how all of this works, it's going to be really important.
Because this could be how we do business from now on.
Exactly. This is about the internet, but it's also about how we think about, value.
Like, what's worth something in the digital world?
And if nothing else, just stay curious, stay informed, and who knows, maybe you'll be the one who comes up with the next big thing in Web3.
And hopefully by then we'll have some better instructions on how it all works.
Right. Like a user manual or something.
Exactly. Something that actually makes sense. All right. That's it for our deep dive today. We hope you learned something new. And until next time, keep exploring and keep asking questions.